All right, so we're ending 2024 with a bang, a big one. Over the next 1 hour and 15 minutes, you are going to learn everything that you need to know about blockchain, decentralized finance, and the hottest buzzword in crypto, the world of tokenization. In addition to that, I'll also equip you with the 3 PDFs that we use in each lesson. The content's going to be broken down into 3 pieces, starting with the basics of blockchain, and then decentralized finance made simple. Did my best to bring it as close to a high school level as I possibly could, because that's a major barrier with blockchain adoption. It just seems to be way too complicated for everyone. I'm trying to fix that. And then lastly, we break off into tokenization 1-on-1. So, why am I doing this? More importantly, why is this video over an hour long, Wade? Well, to those that are new, let me first introduce myself. My name is Wade. I've been in this space since 2019. I've researched over 1,000 digital assets, and although I've narrowed my focus a bit, the number one reason I sit here is to share all that information with you. My goal for 2025 is to begin to make 10 million people better at blockchain. And this piece of content is solely intended to do that. We're not going to be talking about any wild predictions, making any crazy connections. This is strictly an educational piece of content for someone who has heard about blockchain and crypto, but no one has ever told them about blockchain and crypto. That's what I'm here to do. Now, the content you're going to see, it has been recorded over a period of time. In our membership section, the members of the DHN committee, we broke down each one of these PDFs, and that is what I'm going to share with you because you'll notice the difference in time and things like that. But as a member of the channel, going forward, we will have more educational content like this on more specific subjects in the world of blockchain, like smart contracts, digital ownership in relation to blockchain gaming, the rise of artificial intelligence, all of those things. So if you're interested in that, consider becoming a member of the channel. If not, let this be your starting point entering into 2025. So we got a lot to discuss, so I'm not going to waste no more time. Happy New Year and enjoy the video. So I want to attempt to answer any questions you might have about blockchain technology that are related to the technical side. Meaning, how does this stuff all work, truly? We like to get excited about the exotic locations we see these networks, and everybody loves a good price rally, right? But in all of that, it's easy to forget the fundamentals. And that's what I really want to draw your attention to with this PDF here, what I call Blockchain Basics for 2025. I know my title in game is superb, but there will be a PDF attached to this. It's linked under the video, so that way you can download it. There will be a little fee, just forewarn you, but I feel like I'm reaching a point in my career where I need to add a little bit of value to my time, if you know what I mean. But with that, you'll get this easy to use PDF that you can take with you. And what you're going to have in it is a little bit of history of blockchain technology, nothing too serious. I'm going to introduce you to a gentleman by the name of David Chong. Now, back in 1982, he wrote a paper called, and this is going to be a mouthful, Computer Systems Established, Maintained, and Trusted by Mutually Suspicious Groups, right? But I put this in here because experts agree that Satoshi got a lot of his information and inspiration from Sham's work. Sham was also related to a project called DigiCash. I believe, yeah, he was the creator of DigiCash due to a lot of political snowstorm, for lack of better terms. That project didn't really get as far as it should have. And then, funnily enough, within a decade, here comes Bitcoin. Not to draw that type of connection, but I feel like understanding Sham's work, being aware of his work and the Satoshi white paper gives you the fullest perspective, because back then it also lends more to the cypherpunk era. And the cypherpunk era, from what I've seen after being in space for so long, lends more towards the philosophy, the attitude that we see in the space, the attitudes around decentralization and going against the banks and open access. Those things kind of started back then. So I felt it was important to add. And in the PDF, you'll notice that we have a breakdown of how they were the same and how they were different. They both mention decentralization, systems that operate without a central authority, heavy use of cryptographic techniques to ensure security and privacy. Bitcoin relies heavily on that SHA 256 algorithm, which is not only responsible for the mining, I believe it applies to security as well. Now, if you want to go down another rabbit hole, you could look into the associations between the US government and SHA 256. That's mind blowing. But that actually came in a little bit after 1982. So there's that. They also mention, while not explicitly calling it blockchain, a concept of a shared distributed record of transactions. So there's that. And again, the focus on privacy. Both systems aim to enhance users' privacy. Sham's work emphasized privacy-preserving techniques, and Bitcoin allows users to transact anonymously, which we know, enhancing financial privacy. But the key differences are truly where things really begin to open up and separates Bitcoin's blockchain from traditional blockchain. That's through consensus mechanisms like a proof of work and later detailed in the PDF proof of stake, as well as the concept of a digital currency. Like we mentioned though, Sham was involved with the DigiCash concept, but it was more so of a transaction layer, a payments interface for electronic currencies. They didn't have a flagship currency to operate the network like the case for Bitcoin. So, when it comes to the history of blockchain, you bring that fact up at the dinner table, it makes you seem a bit more cooler, in my opinion, right? But let's get a little bit more technical. And again, I did my best to make this as easy to understand as possible. You can look at blockchain like a huge notebook where everyone can see what's written, but no one can change it. You can also add to it as well. That's the piece that's missing in that analogy. But essentially, that's what it is. It's a giant ledger. It's a huge electronic ledger that's immutable, meaning it's permanent. So, the information that was recorded in the Genesis block for blockchain on January 3rd, 2009 is still accessible today, December 11th, 2024. That information has not changed, and it never will. It'll be able to be accessed in 2044 and 64. And that is what a lot of people see as the true gem to what blockchain technology offers, is that permanence. It's that ability to not just trust, but verify information, items, assets, things like that. It leads to the ability to tokenize. And after you study this PDF, you'll really get a good understanding of how blockchains are able to tokenize and truly what the definition of it is, because all it really does is define the process of taking something in the real world and putting it on a blockchain. That's the term that they use for it. But essentially, that's what it is. It's like a chain of pages. Everybody has a copy. When people add something to it, it's displayed for everyone to see. That's what a block explorer is. That's the sharing with everyone. And with that record being immutable and permanent, everyone can verify it. And if that information does not line up with previous history, then it's not allowed in the book. It doesn't get access because not everyone is in consensus. So after that, we go into a little bit of explaining how, according to the white paper, Bitcoin makes use of blockchain technology to create a peer-to-peer network using a distributed timestamp server. This is what creates the no central authority, timestamping transactions, the transactions which are then grouped into blocks linked into chronological order. That is where the term essentially comes from. And then the consensus method, proof of work that that Bitcoin uses to prevent fraud like double spending. The network uses a proof of work system. This involves computers solving complex mathematical problems to add new blocks to the chain. This process requires significant computing power, making it difficult to manipulate the system. So, we're going to go into more in depth on proof of work, and you'll get an understanding of how they're really different, right? And you can also discover, I'm going to pull this up here, because when it comes to the taxonomy, another term for you, taxonomy of our cryptos, I like to go to Crypto Slate and I like to look up proof of work. Not proof of works, that doesn't make any sense. Google has been tripping with this Cloudflare stuff. I'm just not even gonna deal with it. Have y'all had that issue too? It's really making me want to switch to Microsoft Edge. Let me see. I'm trying to get a list of proof of work blockchains. Should have had that prepared. Usually easier to find. But top proof of work coins and their prices, courtesy of crypto.com. We can always rely on crypto.com, right? But you see some very popular chains: Bitcoin, Dogecoin, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum Classic, some newer additions to the market, Caspa. I think that's why a lot of the OG Bitcoin guys, OG crypto people were so behind Caspa, is because it was another iteration of proof of work, maybe a better version of proof of work, better application using proof of work. Proof of work is definitely not dead. Not at all, because, wow, Digibyte's up 20%. But it's not dead because of the hardware. Because of the hardware, the profitability through the hardware, right? But outside of proof of work, which works by nodes compete to solve complex mathematical puzzles, the first node to solve the puzzle adds a new block to the chain. It is vastly different from its friend here, proof of stake, where nodes stake their cryptocurrency to guarantee honest behavior. The network selects or elects, in the case of delegated proof of stake, validators to add blocks to the chain based on the amount of cryptocurrency they have staked. Delegated proof of stake is a lot similar. Token holders elect a subset of nodes called delegates to validate transactions and add blocks to the chain. So I'm going to pull up some proof of stake tokens. But the one thing that people don't like about proof of stake is that disproportionate control that can honestly happen when you have too many people staking the asset. Or let's just say, like, that's a huge barrier. Oh, now it wants to work. Thank you. But that some people may see that as a barrier, right, to getting involved. If you don't have enough to put away, then, that leaves you left out. A case that I can think of right now is definitely the XDC network, because it takes a minimum 2 million XDC to run a master node. And you'll see numbers like that for various other chains. There's a limit to, there's an entry fee, basically, to get involved. But it's a popular consensus mechanism. And another thing that I've observed is proof of stake projects tend to rise in value a lot quicker. That's the thing, because even though it creates a bit of an entry fee, those that can enter tend to enter in mass. So it's a very interesting situation. And then you have practical Byzantine fault tolerance. You'll see I've seen this, in networks like Hedera, but it's a group of nodes known as validators. They agree on the order of transactions and the state of the blockchain. Use cases often used in permissioned blockchains where the number of participants is limited. Other consensus mechanisms include proof of authority, proof of burn, proof of elapsed time. That one's very new to me. Proof of authority, VeChain uses that. I've seen a number of other Web3 carbon related projects use that. A small group of trusted nodes validate transactions. So with proof of authority, it's really you're putting your name up over everything else, name and reputation. And that gives you the permission or the authority to validate transactions on a network. On top of that, guys, blockchain is just one piece of the big distributed ledger technology pie. You have blockchains, but you also have DAGs, you have hash graphs, you have Corda, you have Tangled, you have several forms of DLT that offer different advantages over others. And that's what we break down here too. As you can see, DLT encompasses a variety of systems, with blockchain being the most well known. And we get into some key forms. Blockchain, we covered. Directed acyclic graph. IOTA makes use of that. Constellation DAG, they even put it in their name. They make use of that. Hash graph. Example, Hedera hash graph, but a unique data structure that uses gossip protocols for efficient consensus. So you have a collection of nodes kind of agreeing on the same thing at the same time. And if everybody is clear, then that passes through. That is often a lot faster and a lot more scalable than a lot of these other ones. That's the other advantage, guys. And it also should help you understand why people trip out over Hedera Hashgraph and Constellation DAG and XRP and Algorand and Stellar, because these assets are not traditional blockchains. They're not linear. They're not chain after chain after chain. Hashgraph, you have multiple nodes coming together to reach a consensus. Your directed acyclic graphs, kind of similar. Network of nodes connected in a non-linear way. So there's no determining where those nodes are going to be. So lending to more decentralization, more scalability, faster transaction processing. Having this fundamental information, again, when you see it in the market, you know, like, this asset has the advantage, regardless of what the community may be saying and what the people on CoinMarketCap and these kids on Twitter with their opinions. You know, fundamentally, it's technologically sound. So if they want to work with a company or a large government institution or entity, they have the product that can technically get the job done. And that's what ultimately drives value at the end of the day. Then we get into permission ledgers and permissionless ledgers. This is something that all of these blockchains can do. I want all of these DLTs can do. I really want you to understand that. Permissioned and permissionless, aka public or private blockchains. And listen to the difference in use cases. With permissioned or private ledgers, the access is restricted to a specific group of participants, i.e. a consortium of banks. We've heard that before. Controlled by a central authority or governing body. So yes, this does pull in more centralized. It's definitely a more centralized situation. But the use cases include supply chain management and trade finance. So I think that's another reason why there's an asset called the XDC network. Gets a bit of a bad rep because of the centralization aspect. But when you look at the data that it needs to handle, there's a lot of sensitive information that does not need to be public. That is the benefit of a permissioned or private ledger. Permissionless ledgers, open to the public, anyone who wants to participate, decentralized with no central authority. The biggest examples, Bitcoin and Ethereum. What I have observed recently is that now there are both public and private options of public or permissionless blockchains. They're offering both. That is why I said all of these structures, blockchains, DAGs, Hashgraph, Corda, offer both private and public access to their technology. That's especially true when you get into the discussion of layer 2 technology. Now, here in the PDF, you get a few key differences. Data structure, how data is stored and organized, linear versus non-linear, blockchain versus DAG. Consensus mechanisms, how agreement is reached on the validity of transactions. So your proof of authority versus proof of stake versus proof of work. Permissioning, who has access, public or private. Now, we don't cover everything here, clearly, because the list would be too long. But that's why I made this corresponding video, to add a bit more emphasis. You see, here's your proof of work assets. Here's your proof of stake assets. Right? But let's continue out here and talk about the one thing that we all love to talk about, utility, also known as blockchain use cases. Blockchain technology can power a variety of consumer-facing applications, offering unique advantages like increased security, transparency, and efficiency. We have seen the world of DeFi evolve over the years. Names in that space include Ethereum, Aave, Compound, Uniswap for sure. They lead the world of decentralized exchanges. And you'll often see stablecoins littered throughout the world of finance and more recently real world assets, which is ultimately just the institutional form of DeFi. And then you got supply chain management, loyalty programs. You'll often see that in Web3. So your ticketing applications, your fan engagement websites. There's a network called Chili's that I was a huge fan of until I talked to the CEO directly and he told me we ain't touching the states until we get proper regulation. This was months before the election, months before Biden said that he was stepping down. So might need to talk to my brother again, but I digress. Chili's worked on sports fan engagement technologies. That would also fall under loyalty programs. And then you got digital identity, which is becoming a lot more popular. Blockchain games, which will never die. I cannot wait until we reach a blockchain gaming renaissance. And under the important considerations, user experience, scalability, regulation, these are factors that may get in the way of the adoption of some of the blockchain games, digital identity applications, loyalty programs, things like that. Things that we often talk about on the channel, on the main channel to the public or whatever. And then at the end here, and I was talking with my brother Dimitri about the importance of this, programming languages, because the Move programming language is what made me turn my attention to the importance of them. Like, I never thought about it, but it must have a programming language. These blockchains must be programmed by something, right? So I started to dive into the Move programming language that's highlighted here. This was the programming language that was created by the guys hired by Mark Zuckerberg to create a blockchain for Facebook. So I'm thinking, if this thing was originally designed to support a network of 2 billion plus people, and now it has made its way into the blockchain space, let's just get into why they're important before I begin to to get us excited. So programming languages are fundamental to blockchain and distributed ledger technologies. They are responsible for building foundations, core protocols. Languages like C++ build these essential blockchain protocols, including the consensus mechanisms like proof of work, proof of stake, data structures, and network communication protocols. They are also very key to smart contracts. Smart contracts are the if then function for the blockchain. So if this happens, then this must happen. It is written in code. That is what smart contract is. You see here specialized languages like Solidity, which is often used on Ethereum, Rust for Solana, and Move for Diem, now Aptos, Sui, and recently announced an asset called IOTA, which we mention on the channel as often as we can, are now going to be adopting this Move programming language. That is something you really need to keep your eyes on. It also lends to developing applications. Languages like JavaScript, Python, and Go help developers create front-end interfaces and connect with blockchain backends for DeFi, supply chain management, gaming, and more. The world of Web3 runs on JavaScript and Python. Every meme coin, every meme token airdrop, every meme token's website, it's running on JavaScript and Python. Like, I'm just being honest with you. So when you really understand these fundamentals, guys, you understand that these networks ain't really that different. That is why it is even more important to pick the right one, because they're all offering the same thing with a different branding on it, with a different brand name. And those who are able to execute the fundamentals successfully the longest, that's the key there, the longest are going to be the most valuable. That's why, in my opinion, and for those who watch this a little bit after 2024 into 2025, I'm making this during a period of time right after the election, right after Donald Trump was chosen. The market rallied. We are fresh off of a 60-day rally, first time touching 100K after the election. US-based crypto networks were the first to surge, the best performers during this time. I do not see that as a coincidence. But again, programming languages, lastly, allow for innovation and experimentation. They enable developers to test new blockchain architectures, consensus mechanisms, and application models. These languages help create solutions that allow different blockchains to communicate and share data. So, within these 5 pages, or 14 pages, sorry guys, is a solid understanding through 4 key components, being the history of blockchain, how it works, different variations, consensus mechanisms, programming languages which lead to utility. You'll be able to spot truly which networks are truly the ones that will survive. Because when you really get deep into the space, you'll find not all of these networks are truly taking advantage of the real potential of the technology that they're trying to get into. You'll see that. Our focus for this one is going to be decentralized finance. I did my best to make it simple. Now, much like the blockchain basics for 2025 piece that we did a week ago, there will be a PDF attached to this one as well, which you can download. The link will be in the description. But this piece here is going to give you a rundown of the history of decentralized finance, its origins, as well as how it evolved over time, and some of the key pillars and features to look out for when looking into decentralized finance projects or assets who claim to be in the realm of decentralized finance. So let's jump into this, guys. And you'll notice right away, we have Mr. Reggie Middleton here. I placed him here because I want everyone, at least who follows me, to understand everyone who is involved. Not just the mainstream consensus, but I'm going to give you all of the information that I know about that time period and the origins of decentralized finance. And if you look, you too will find the story of Reggie Middleton. Now, I'll leave it at that. I have been looking at Reggie's profiles recently. As a matter of fact, if you're completely new and you don't understand my relationship with Reggie Middleton, go over to his X profile and click on his link tree. This first video here, it was made by me. I made this almost 3 years ago when I first discovered that a black man was largely responsible for the world of decentralized finance that we have today. His early work was observed, critiqued, and then they developed their own, similar to what he did. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into all of that. I'm not going to get into the semantics of that. What I will do is follow up with Reggie in 2025 and see what's next. Because looking at his timeline, it appears to be precious metals. That's next. But I want you to understand Reggie Middleton's place here. 2013, 2014, he was the first person to execute transactions, DeFi-like transactions on the Bitcoin blockchain. There is video evidence of this. And I would not be doing my job completely if I just omitted his work from the history of DeFi. So I'll leave you to that journey on your own. But I really want you to know that. Now, I'll give credit where it is due. The rise of Ethereum put decentralized finance on the map. How they did it, that's another topic of discussion. Now, after that, after the history lesson that may pull on your heartstrings a little bit, we get into the important elements of DeFi. And without these elements, any project claiming to be a DeFi asset can't stand. Obviously, at the core, there is blockchain technology. But on top of that, you have smart contracts. Now, smart contracts, we're going to have an episode dedicated to that in the future because smart contracts are a bit of a complicated piece of technology that is designed to do something very simple. If, then transaction. If these conditions are met, then these things will happen. That's really what it is. And then, of course, obviously, you got to have an asset to run within the DeFi ecosystem. We'll get more into that in just a minute. DeFi, decentralized exchange, they facilitate peer-to-peer trading, transparency, security. DeFi protocols, this is the branded layers to DeFi ecosystems that allow you to make use of lending and borrowing, yield farming, and stablecoins. Yes, do not get it twisted. Stablecoins are an extension of DeFi, much like real-world assets and the tokenization of those assets. And then lastly, we have interoperability. We've been hearing a lot about DeFi protocols that have come out with the ability to connect other DeFi protocols. It's part of why Chainlink is as popular as it is. It's part of why the Flare network is as popular as it is outside of the smart contracts. But it's the interoperability, the cross-chain communication. I'll be covering a story this weekend in regards to Stellar and their expansion into DeFi in 2025 through a relationship that they have established with Axelar. Axelar, we know, uses a tool called general message passing that allows DeFi protocols to essentially jump from one chain to the next or exist on multiple chains at once. So, very crucial. If the asset isn't interoperable currently, it must have the ability to do so at some point in the future, sooner than later for sure. So next we get into how decentralized finance works. And I love this analogy here. You can think of it as a piggy bank that no one can break into. It's a magic piggy bank that everyone can see, but only certain rules let you add money to it. This magic piggy bank is like a blockchain, and the rules to the piggy bank, where everyone can see, but no one can add to it, no one can touch it, those would be the rules or the smart contracts. They tell everyone how to use the piggy bank, like how much money you can add and when to take it out. A closer example, try to hit a little bit closer to home here. Let's say parents in the audience, you have a piggy bank, it's full of money and you want to set it aside for your kids. That piggy bank sits in the living room though, and there are certain conditions, certain rules that must be abided by before them kids can get access to that piggy bank. The rules that must be abided by, you can look at those as the smart contracts. So, Lil Charlie, if you do good this week, then you'll get access to the piggy bank. That's a smart contract being used on your children, right? The piggy bank is the DeFi protocol itself. So you have many protocols. The biggest one would be Uniswap, but also in the PDF, I have links to various other, I'm scroll down real quick here, protocols in the space to make you the most familiar. But that's essentially how DeFi works. And when you get into deeper layers, you have the smart contracts and something called an automated market maker. Simply, these automated market makers keep the liquidity in a DeFi protocol, in a decentralized exchange. Without these automated market makers, then there's no balance to the incoming and outgoing liquidity on a particular protocol. Perfect example, we can hop over to the XRP ledger and they give us another explanation. Automated market makers provide liquidity in the XRP ledger's decentralized exchange. Each AMM holds a pool of 2 assets. You can swap between the 2 assets at an exchange rate set by a formula. So without automated market makers, you can't trust a DeFi exchange. That's why I remember there was a point in the time, in the market where a lot of the assets that we follow, like Hedera, like Stellar, were developing automated market makers. They have since implemented them recently. That is why, and we're going to find this out this weekend, assets like Stellar and Hedera are looking to branch off deeper into DeFi in 2025 because they've established an automated market maker. It's sufficient. And now, because you have that core piece alongside the smart contracts, you can now start building. And that's the beautiful thing about it, guys. And to that point, let me just show you what I'm talking about here. Stellar smart contracts are coming through their Sorbonne platform. When we do the episode on smart contracts specifically, we'll get deeper into that. Well, let's hop back over here and get into borrowing, lending, staking, and yield farming. Now, for us folks in the United States, we can't stake, at least not on a centralized platform. However, there are other options through decentralized platforms, like a hash pack from Hedera that allows you to stake the HBAR token at least at a certain rate. And then there are yield-bearing opportunities like what you get from Uphold and their rewards program. We have been talking a lot about RLUSD launching on Uphold, and next month they will be including RLUSD into their stablecoin yield-bearing reward program. You'll get 5.5%. I talk about it all the time. But that is an example of yield farms or yield-bearing opportunities. The staking, there's a great website you can go to make use of that, stakingrewards.com. And if you want to find another decentralized protocol outside of a hash pack on Hedera, let's say you want to go on Solana, this website will give you the different protocols that run on Solana that allow you to stake. So that is an extension of decentralized finance. Another extension of decentralized finance, and if I haven't mentioned this already, I'm really going to make a point to, is real world asset tokenization. That has been the number one thing we've all talked about ending 2024. It's been the talk of everyone's town. This is an extension, a direct extension from DeFi, because in order for you to have these institutional grade finance products on chain, you need to have a sufficient automated market maker. You need to have very efficient smart contracts, and you need to have a very efficient DEX protocol or platform. I believe the situation with Ondo, Solana is their backing platform, and Ondo provides the AMMs and smart contracts. But still, that is the setup that you will see throughout any DeFi protocol. When you look into Uniswap, they have the same thing. Uniswap has their own automated market maker in the background, as well as the ability to run smart contracts. If I'm not mistaken, it's right now through Ethereum, but they have plans, if they haven't already, launching their own chain, Uniswap's own chain. That's going to be crazy. But when it comes to the features, those are what you want to look out for: borrowing, lending, staking, and yield farming. And again, we have an analogy with the piggy bank in the sense where, okay, the piggy bank is in the living room again, and this time the kids are adding to it, right? You set the piggy bank out there with a certain amount of money in it, the liquidity, and then the kids can then add to it. And let's say you place a rule on the piggy bank: if they perform a certain way, you'll add this percentage on top of what they have contributed. And then it makes the pot bigger itself. With yield farming, what you do is you take that piggy bank concept and you multiply it 2, 3, 4 times over. And now you have a, as they say, a farming effect. So when you really get into DeFi, there's money to be made there. You just have to understand the avenues and channels to go through in order to get it. And that's what this next section is going to help you do: how to set up a DeFi account step by step. I did a piece of content a while ago explaining how, whether it's self-custody or not, the process is still the same. You have to set up a 12-word phrase. You got to put in your information. You got to, select your blockchain address. And then to fund that wallet, you have to be able to send the assets you bought on a centralized exchange to your wallet. Now, depending on whether you use self-custody or custodial, the process is slightly different. With a custodial wallet, everything is managed by, for example, Coinbase. You send your asset, you buy an asset on Coinbase using your credit or debit card. They're managing the private key to that account on the blockchain, and they're also holding the assets in a form of custody behind the scenes. So on record, when you look into the app, it says this is the amount that you have, but it's technically not physically in your possession. The difference is, with self-custody, you control the private key, you control the custody, you control the access. Anything that happens to that money, it's all on you. Depending on the type of investor you are, you may be more comfortable with someone else handling that responsibility as opposed to it all being on you. The difference is, with it being on you, you also get more freedom that way. Let me show you something. So this is my SafePal. This is my DeFi wallet that I use. And you'll see here, I enter my password. It'll take me to my wallet account, my wallet dashboard, to tell me all the assets that I got in there. This is self-custody solution. This is offline. This is the assets that I have in a SafePal wallet in the back of my closet right now. Okay? I ain't even seen that thing in weeks. And that's the whole point. But when I do get ready to use it, I can hop over to a website like Uniswap, and you see this button here at the top right, where you can either connect Uniswap Wallet or Uniswap Mobile, or they give you the option of SafePal Trust, Wallet Connect, which connects you to even more less known wallets, and then Coinbase Wallet. Once you connect your wallet, you get in. What'll happen is, instead of they giving you a list of tokens, the list that'll pop up here will be the list of assets you have in your wallet. From there, you'll be able to select, let's say, a 1-inch, put in the amount of 1-inch that you got, you want to sell it, swap it out, boom. The process is done through your wallet. What happens is you're responsible for the signing of the transaction. With a self-custody wallet, you are in control of that signage because you're signing it with your private key. With a custodial wallet, through Coinbase's wallet, they're managing the private key transaction. So what it is that you go to put the transaction in, they get alerted, they open the private key long enough for you to sign the transaction, then they shut it back down, but the transaction is complete. That is the biggest difference, is the access. When you're dealing with custodial wallets, that's not your money. When you're dealing with self-custody, that's your money. It's a concept that a lot of people still fight about, but it's the truth. And if you want me to do a piece of content specifically on how to do crypto transactions, don't hesitate. Let me know in the comments. I did it once. I'll do it again. Now, the next step after that, I think we kind of hit on these things. Funding of your wallet, sending of transactions, connecting your wallet to the platform. Yep, touched on that. Using the services. So again, going back to the analogy of the piggy bank. If you're lending and borrowing, that piggy bank is in the living room. Your kids got to hit a certain criteria before they get some money out of that piggy bank. Trading. Let's say they want to take a couple, let's say they got $4. They come to you, I want 4 tokens. You give me your $4, I'll withdraw the 4 tokens from the piggy bank. That's a trade. That's an exchange. Yield farming, again, now you got 2 or 3 piggy banks in that living room, and based on certain rules or a smart contract, money will either enter or exit that yield farm. And then with staking, it's like yield farming, but there's just the one piggy bank. You're solely responsible. Every provider, staking provider, has different rewards. Different networks have different rewards, things like that. So those 4 key pieces, those 4 features make up a DeFi protocol. And if you're looking into a protocol that does not have at least one of the 4, then they can't call themselves a DeFi asset. They just can't. Now, in the PDF, we'll also get some things to look out for. We already know regulations are on the horizon. I think, though, the regulation around payment protocols, cross-border payments, financial services, providers, money service businesses, transmitters, things like that here in the United States, once they have enough regulatory clarity, then DeFi protocols, these DeFi services won't need to be regulated, because it'll be the players involved building the protocols or making use of them that'll already be regulated. So anything that they touch will also have the same clearance. Now, there's another piece to this as well. It literally just slipped my mind. We may touch on it again towards the end. But like I said, you'll get links to a list of various DeFi applications, these DeFi cryptos. And again, this PDF, it's interactive. So you click on these images, it'll take you to the website where this list came from. But you got your DeFi protocols, which are more the general assets that cover all 4 of those features. And then you got your yield farming. They focus specifically on providing the soil for the farms, right? Your decentralized exchange tokens. So some decentralized exchanges like a Uniswap have their own token. This is to drive incentive. They also work as utility for the decentralized exchange. Ethereum provides us with the best example, because let's say you want to use a decentralized exchange on Ethereum. What do you need before you even enter that exchange? You got to have a lot of Ethereum. So not only is that an incentive, but that's also a utility. So to that point, we're talking smart contracts here. This is a list of smart contract cryptos. Remember, the smart contract, if then scenario, if then transaction. These assets that you see here, and you'll notice Hedera, Stellar, Algorand, they specialize in refining and making that if then transaction more efficient. Like I said, we'll do a whole piece on smart contracts by themselves, because the science behind it is very interesting, and I can't wait to boil it down to coffee table discussion. You know what I mean? Which is what my whole purpose is here. So with that, guys, you're going to get an explanation of all these tokens, as well as some more criteria to look for in coming decentralized finance tokens or assets that may hit the market. They have to allow for governance and decision making. They have to create economic incentives, like the examples Uniswap's token, Ethereum's token. Platform access and utility, again, Ethereum's token, you need that to do anything on the platform. And then value appreciation. That's what Uniswap's token and Ethereum, obviously, Solana, Sui, any network that adopts a major decentralized exchange and that exchange gets popular, that value that the decentralized exchange brings into the network is often transmuted into the price of the token. I've seen this happen several times over. So, not only is DeFi a crucial piece to this whole crypto blockchain puzzle, but it's a powerful value driver. And then the future gets even interesting. Institutional DeFi. What was Ando talking about? Institutional grade finance, now on chain, ladies and gentlemen. Enhanced user experience. That's where Uniswap was able to take the lead in the realm of DeFi. All right. Now, I may not be the biggest fan of Uniswap. I may not talk about Uniswap a lot, but I can tell you, after watching Uniswap go from the bottom, I'm talking about 47 cents per uni, to $12, $13 now, iOS integration, Google Android integrations, enhanced user experience. The tokenization of real world assets. When we do, the next episode after this one will be Tokenization 101. We have to get the foundational information on tokenization because it makes us better investors. Again, I'm making you better at blockchain here. Tokenization of real world assets, a direct extension of decentralized finance, because you need a smart contract, an automated market maker, and a very strong decentralized exchange protocol or platform underlying the RWA. The best example we have of that from recent content is Hedera and Zonix. Zonix made it super simple. We will pick the network for you. You just tell us what you want to tokenize, and we'll have it up and running in 4 days. So, outside of that, and this was something that I'm very interested in, DeFi and AI. I'll put it to you like this. The automated market makers already run on algorithms. What's the chances of AI powering said algorithms? So that way the algorithm doesn't have to be manually adjusted or adjusting post a major market move. The AI can predict when a major market move is coming and adjust the algorithm accordingly. There's a lot of discussion about how that will affect the markets. I'll just sit back and wait and see, in my humble opinion, because that's deep. That's deep conversation right there. And again, interoperability, cross-chain solutions. I'll be covering a story this weekend about Stellar, and they're branching off into DeFi for 2025. We're going to kind of do maybe a future outlook, maybe some predictions. But they're bringing in Axelar to their ecosystem to improve their DeFi capabilities. And what we know about Axelar is that they have a tool called general message passing that simply allows one DeFi protocol or a non-DeFi protocol to engage with a DeFi protocol or create their own. So I hope you guys are enjoying these educational episodes as much as I am. Today, we're going over Tokenization 101. Tokenization is the biggest buzzword in crypto right now. But once you download this PDF, you'll find out that tokenization has been around for a long time. It's just when it met up with blockchain, things really started to accelerate. So I am particularly excited about this one because tokenization completes the triangle, completes the trifecta. You understand the basics of blockchain technology and you understand how DeFi is an extension of that, then it makes it easier to understand that tokenization is the final leg. It's how we get to the final form for what blockchain technology can do. So once you get the document, guys, just like with the others, you're going to start with the key points. And right away, it gives you a one-sentence definition on what tokenization is. Simply, it is the process of converting real-world assets into digital tokens on blockchain networks. We are very familiar with those blockchain networks, but if you aren't, I'm going to show you some in this episode. We also go through a little bit of the history, popular applications, benefits, and leading blockchain platforms. So, like I said, can't wait to share this stuff with you. Another reason I am enjoying putting these episodes together is obviously I have access to these PDFs and I feel like they're making me sharper. And that leads to the mission that I'm on in 2025 is to make everybody better at blockchain. So, particularly with this analogy here, I love this. It's the best way to understand tokenization and it'll take you to your childhood a little bit. So, using the analogy of a toy or a collector's item, tokenization involves representing real-world assets like houses, cars, or even art as digital tokens on a special type of computer called blockchain. Imagine turning your favorite toy into a unique digital card proving your ownership. This card, stored securely on blockchain, represents your ownership. Like this toy card, you can tokenize real world assets, allowing you to own a fraction of a painting or a small piece of a building, all represented by these digital tokens. So, to make this a little bit more real for you, let me show you something. All right, sure you can see this. Yes, it is. Unboxed. I've had this thing for 2 years now. It is from the original trilogy, Brian's Supra from the Fast and the Furious. Now, I had the idea to hold on to this before he passed. After he passed away, it made it more important to me. But I show you this because this is an example of tokenization. Let's say I wanted to digitize this, and you can invest in this collector's item to appreciate the value. On top of that, I have a crazy suspicion that there will be some sort of anniversary celebration for the most profitable film franchise in history. And these items will be in high demand. So that's just an example on the smallest scale that I could bring you of what tokenization essentially does. I could take that Supra, put it on a platform like Ethereum, or Polygon, or even Stellar or XRP, and all the other Fast and Furious fans around the world can invest in it. Then, once it does reach a certain value, we can break it all down and everybody can get a return on their individual ownership. So tokenization, when you understand it from that perspective, is really exciting. It's an exciting thing that is going to come out of this blockchain technology. Now, we get into a little bit of the history, tokenization throughout history. The earliest forms of tokenization, casino chips. These represent monetary value within a specific casino, acting as a token for cash. So that's a perfect example, especially if we want to compare it to networks. So you got very popular casinos. We'll just use the Bellagio for an example. The Bellagio has chips. In this day and age, that would be digital tokens that you could only take to the Bellagio or use on the Bellagio network to transfer into cash. There wasn't a digital interface during the early days of casinos, but that is a perfect analogy because it shows you the exclusivity of some of these tokens, which will be another important factor. You also have loyalty points, frequent flyer miles, or stored loyalty points are digital tokens that represent rewards. I've brought this up several times, but it's a famous grocery store chain here in the Midwest. I'm pretty sure they're around the U.S. too, but Myers, they have an M-Perks program. Christmas dinner this year, M-Perks paid for at least 75% of that. M-Perks, not cash. So that is another version of it that people are familiar with. And once tokenization becomes more popular, it'll be easier to adopt a system like that because they're already so familiar with it. And again, loyalty points goes all the way back to the first blockchain basics as being one of the core use cases for all blockchains. So when I say tokenization is an extension of DeFi, and DeFi is the extension of what blockchain can do, they all fit together. Now, fast forward a little bit, early 2000s, payment card tokenization starts to hit the market, where credit card numbers were replaced with unique tokens for online transactions. This often took place on the back end. People didn't really see that, but I do recall looking up things where this was very popular for a very short amount of time. Early attempts at digital asset tokenization, some systems explored representing digital assets with unique identifiers. Unique identifiers can also be looked at as digital IDs. We are going to talk about digital IDs I'm going to try to get it out today in an episode related to Hedera because that's part of their new vision for 2025. And I want you to understand that digital IDs don't just involve people. These digital identifiers can also be placed on an ecosystem of products that are distributed globally. So keep that in mind as well. Then we have blockchain and the rise of modern tokenization in 2009. Bitcoin's emergence introduced the concept of decentralized digital currencies. These were the fixed casino chips associated to separate casinos or networks that ultimately created the foundation to be tokenized on. First, notice the pattern too and the timeline. First, we got Bitcoin that gave us blockchain. Then Reggie Middleton, Vitalik, they showed up 2014, 2015, gave us DeFi. From DeFi, we got NFTs, as explained here, and now we're in the world of tokenization. Funny thing about the NFTs, though, I have read at least 3 reports in the last month that state an increase or point to an increase in interest for NFTs. Why would that be a thing now? Well, the extension of tokenization is non-fungible tokens and the technology that they're actually used for, or the purpose that the technology is used for, which will be unique identifiers related to loyalty programs, art, collectibles, as well as several financial tools, ETFs. The list really goes on. So, as it says here, current trends, security token offerings, token securities like stocks, bonds, real estate, real world asset tokenization. Now, I want to take a break here, pause, to show you some sources of information to show you where the activity is. We bring up this site quite frequently, rwa.xyz. This gives you the global overview. There's also links to this website in the PDF as well. And then you can also go to DeFi Llama. They have added RWA statistics this year. So this will be another platform where you can get some information. And what I'm seeing is that, like for this one example, Open Eden on the XRP ledger. I do not believe RWA is picking up the numbers for Open Eden yet, but Open Eden only launched within the last few months. So I'm seeing that DeFi Llama is able to get their data, get their hands on data from the up and coming RWA protocols. Whereas when you go to rwa.xyz, you'll get information from the more established networks in the field. And you'll also notice that the leaders, Ethereum, Stellar, and the XDC network. Solana's up there too. And I've even saw a spot for Binance. It gets out of hand. But another source of RWA crypto information, my favorite publication, cryptoslate.com. They have a full list of tokenization assets focused in that market. You'll see some big names here. Comtech Gold. Let's see here. Strike X, that's payments. Alliance Block. A lot of you have brought that up several times. Boson Protocol. This asset during the 2021 NFT run was all over the place, guys. I believe their thing was taking those collectibles, digitizing them, and giving them a house in the metaverse, which with tokenization, do not think the metaverse is dead. All right. That's the catalyst that it needed. A lot of you also bring up Goldfinch. Still need to look into that. Maple, that's financial tokenization on Solana. Relio, that's real estate tokenization on Algorand and Stellar, if I'm not mistaken. Centrifuge, Polymesh, Clearpool, that's on XDC. Origin Trail. Yeah. When we get into the use cases, I'm going to bring up Origin Trail. And then Reserve Rights, XDC, Ondo, Avalanche, Chainlink, ICP. So that'll give you an idea of the assets that are leading the tokenization charge right now. And you'll also notice when you go back over to that, it ain't that many of them. 59 assets out of what, depending on where you go, 2 million cryptos on the market. Again, a lot of value are going to go into these assets. A lot of concentrated wealth will go into these assets. But let's go into how tokenization works. Again, leading with our childhood toy analogy. Imagine you have a rare and valuable action figure, a true collector's item, right? Create a digital card. You can create a unique digital card that represents this specific action figure. The card contains information like the toy's name, unique identifying features, and maybe even, a picture. You record the card on the special computer or the blockchain. You write this digital card onto the blockchain. This is like securely storing the card in a special vault that everyone can see, but nobody can change or steal. So right here is something else that is very important. A lot of the pushback from everyone around NFTs was the fact that how can you take an image, a JPEG, that can be duplicated en masse and claim ownership over it? Well, see, I think what people didn't take it a step further. Yes, you can take the JPEG and duplicate it as many times as you want, but there will only ever be one source. There only will ever be one source. And that's where NFTs come in. That's where tokenization would come in. That's where Brian Supra would come in. I would be, if I tokenize that Supra, it would go on blockchain record, permanent and immutable, as me being the first person in history to do it. Now, mind you, I could take a picture of it, post it on Lightmint, Stellar's NFT platform, or Hedera's NFT platform, and then people can take the picture, copy it, and claim as if they're the owner. But the original blockchain record, a record that can be and will be used in a court of law, will give me ownership and no one else. So regardless of whatever they do with it, they take it, they run with it, they create a meme token around it, whatever. In the court of law, I was first. And that is proven with an immutable record on blockchain. So it magnifies this next thing here, proving of ownership. And we're using the analogy of one of our favorite toys from our childhood, collectibles, but taking it to a more mature level. I did a doc about blockchain in Africa. And the main premise of that was the lack of verified documentation to prove ownership over a piece of land that had been passed down in a family for generations. It was taken from her simply because she didn't have the proper documentation. I could not imagine having that happen to my daughter. After building a lifetime of success and passing it on to them, they're not able to access it because of somebody didn't put in the paperwork. I could not imagine, guys. That's the true power of NFTs that people are going to witness on the back end or maybe during this transition to tokenization. So now we're talking about the use cases. As you can see here, real estate, art, collectibles, securities, supply chain, commodities. So let me show you a few examples of assets doing that. So when it comes to real estate, my number one go-to, a platform I have been studying for a while because I'll admit to you, still a little bit weary about investing in physical properties that in countries where I've never been to personally. But this is lawfully. It's running on Algorand, as you can see, the NASDAQ for real estate, buy and sell real estate as effortlessly as trading a share of TSLA, that's Tesla. Diversify across 150 properties in 40 markets starting at just $50. I go to this one first because, to my knowledge, Lawfully is the longest running tokenized real estate platform in the market. Algorand hit the ground running first with Lawfully back in 2021, if I'm not mistaken. So when it comes to tokenization of real estate, here's a great example for you. When it comes to digital ownership and the tokenization of such, I believe that it will be Web3 gaming that brings that to the forefront. Because when I was deep into assets like Immutable X, like Scale, like Sui, What I loved the most was their approach towards digital ownership. A lot of it involves the tokenization of certain assets, whether they be in-game assets or real-world assets associated with the game, because that's another element too. Also, in that research of blockchain games, I found a lot of companies that are also building out multimedia arms to what they're doing. This means you have a game title that has a comic book attached or a manga and a real world action figure associated with the brand as well. If they don't have a myriad of other things, merchandise, things like that. So what you see, and this also pulls in the loyalty rewards as well, one of the core blockchain use cases. What you'll see is that you buy an NFT up front to a certain title. For example, there is one here I can show you. This one was one of my favorite, and I did get a chance to play the game, by the way. But this title here, Metalcore. With Metalcore, in order for you to start playing the game, you had to purchase an NFT. That NFT worked as your in-game character. So instead of paying the game company for the game itself, you're paying to get the character, and then you have access to everything that the game is going to benefit or bring to you over the next few years. It's the utilization of NFTs for the tokenization of identities that improve ownership in the digital world that will make people understand the power of tokenization directly. And then outside of that, we have the security tokens. Number one in that field would be Securitize, the leader in real world asset tokenization. They specialize on the institutional side, enterprise level. But take a look at who they associate themselves with, the particular blockchains that they like to use. We have Aptos, Arbitrum, Avalanche, Ethereum, Optimism, Polygon, and the XDC network. Rarefied air, the XDC network is in right now. ZK Zinc is another one. Then they have several custodial solutions. Crypto custodians, that's another angle to it. We don't need to get that deep. But outside of that, we also have supply chain management. And this is when I'm going to bring up Origin Trail. I was doing a lot of study on Origin Trail this summer. And although we like to talk about the payments, the DeFi, DLTs, things like that, outside of that, this is another asset that I have had my eye on for years and just sort of watched evolve. I never really put any money into it, but I was interested in how they were applying artificial intelligence to the world of the supply chain. They even have their version of ChatGPT for their own blockchain. So anything that you would want to know about Oregon Trail or the applications running on it, you can go directly to them. Find out everything that you need to know. So when it comes to the supply chain, Origin Trail is one you want to look into. And then lastly, we talk about commodities. And this is when you realize who the leaders are. Ethereum, XDC, Stellar, market cap of $1 billion right now. Less than 60,000 holders of tokenized commodities across these networks. XDC is leading the charge with 11 million. That is coming from Comtech Gold, which tokenizes gold, makes it available to everyone. Wisdom Tree Gold, they're tokenizing their offering on Stellar. Everybody else has chosen Ethereum. However, we do know that Paxos Gold in 2025 will be extending their offering to the Stellar network as well. So those are the real world examples of the core fundamental pieces to tokenization, which is all the more reason why I got excited when it was time to put this together for you guys, because it just really made everything make sense to me. And even though I research this stuff every day, it is still a challenge to piece the puzzle together properly. So I think this PDF is going to help so many people because it's definitely helping me. This, again, goes into the top networks. And again, you can click on this link here, it's supposed to be, nope, it'll be this one down here. You click on that and it'll take you to rwa.xyz. But essentially, guys, yep, these are the assets again. And then these are key considerations. You can read that on your own. Those are just things to be aware of that may be pitfalls to the adoption of tokenized real world assets. And then the future outlook, the tokenization of everything. Once people figure this out and they understand how easy it is, everything is going to be tokenized. I answered an email this weekend. It's centered around DeFi, and it brought up an interesting perspective. So we know that in 2025, assets like Hedera, Stellar, and the XRP Ledger are getting into DeFi genuinely for the very first time. And the conversation we had led to the point of, with Hedera, XRP, and Stellar getting into DeFi now, it gives them an advantage. Not only will these networks give an experience more similar to what they're used with traditional banking, but this will also show people now are familiar with DeFi because of Ethereum, as well as the disadvantages of DeFi because of Ethereum. So that is going to, once people start seeing that there are more DeFi opportunities outside of Ethereum, outside of Solana, outside of Binance, that are faster, more efficient, and more scalable, that is going to turn this market upside down quickly. So with that, guys, that's all for this one. Again, let me know any questions you may have in the comments about tokenization. I think smart contracts will be next as far as this educational series goes. And I also had an idea of using the membership section to dive into other assets that we, can't really cover on the public channel because of how YouTube works. All right. I've built this channel around certain assets and now YouTube has that fixed. So it's a complicated topic. Maybe we can talk about it privately one day if you guys reach out and want to know about it. But with that, guys, I hope you enjoy these educational pieces here. I really have fun making them. And again, you can download this PDF. The link to that will be in the description. Don't forget to drop down your questions. And with that, y'all know what time it is. If that money is digital, so is the hustle.